All right, let's talk about figurative language. I bet that you have heard someone say something along the lines of, "You literally make me want to rip the ears off of my own head." And they are using the word literally completely wrong. Literally means actual, factual, truthful, straightforward. This is what happened. Okay. What they meant was to use figuratively. So, figuratively, you make me want to rip the ears off of my head, is the idea of telling someone, I wish you would stop talking, right? But instead of saying, I wish you would stop talking, they want to paint a picture for you. They want you to really get how much you're annoying them with your talking, right? So, figurative language is the idea of having a writer communicate by trying to paint a picture with words, trying to help the reader create a movie or an experience in their head where they can really invest in what the writer is trying to say and understand it and relate to it better. Okay. So, ways that figurative language can be used. The first one is a simile. A simile compares two things using the word like or as. Okay. I know you guys know this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Just a quick reminder that simile is going to take two things that might not even seem to be related, and it's going to show the reader how they are similar using the words like or the word as. Okay. So he is as clumsy as a panda bear on roller skates. He's pretty dang clumsy, right? The mattress was as hard as a rock. That mattress is pretty hard. My hands and fingers feel like icicles. My hands and fingers are really cold. Okay. But instead of being literal and saying he is an awkward guy, we're being figurative and we're trying to paint a picture of, look, it's like you could see this dude, you know, like he was a panda bear on roller skates, falling down, creating a mess, knocking people over. That's how clumsy this guy is. Okay. So similes are helpful because they help us to see how one thing is like another. Very similar to metaphors. But a metaphor is different because it's still a comparison of two things that are probably not seemingly related to each other, um, except that they have something in common, obviously. And in order to tell you how they're alike, we are not going to use the words like or the word as. Metaphors are not using the words like or as. Okay. So now instead of saying he's a little clumsy, like a panda bear on skates, now we're saying he is a clumsy panda bear. That's how awkward and clumsy this guy is, right? It's a more extreme version. It's kind of like the mattress was a rock. We're using state of being verbs now. Is and was, because that mattress is really hard and I want you to understand that it's really hard and uncomfortable. So I'm going to tell you using a metaphor that that mattress was a rock. Was it actually made of stone? Literally? No, it's not literal. It's figurative. It's a metaphor, but it was really hard. And that's what I want you to understand. How about my hands and fingers are icicles? Well, there's that state of being verb again. It's not like, it's not as, it's a state of being verb that says that my hands and fingers are really crazy cold as though they were icicles. Okay. Metaphors are helpful because they help us see the similarity between two things, very much like they have a similar effect to the simile, except they're more extreme. Okay. So, to show you some examples, look at the difference. He is as sneaky as a cobra. Well, he's pretty sneaky, right? But it's more extreme to use a metaphor that says he is a sneaky cobra. It just seems a little bit worse, doesn't it? Right? How about this one? My pregnant aunt is as big as a house. Don't ever say that. Yeah, that's going to get you hurt. But anyway, um, this is pretty hurtful. This is pretty inconsiderate right here. But now look at using the metaphor version. Instead of using As in a simile, we're saying is. So now we're saying, my pregnant aunt is a giant house, which is going to get you murdered. And then she's just going to claim temporary insanity um, because of pregnancy hormones. So don't do it. But anyway, it's the difference between a metaphor and a simile. Metaphors are harsher or more extreme comparisons. Doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Look at this one. She is as smart as Einstein. Well, we're saying that Einstein and she are similar in terms of how smart they are. But is she really as smart as Einstein? Probably not. But it's a very complimentary way to get the reader to understand that this is a smart chick, right? But if I really wanted to get on her good side and be even more complimentary, I would just say, she is such an Einstein. And now it's a more direct, more extreme comparison between she and Einstein and their intelligence. And it just sounds a little bit nicer. So it's another example of a metaphor being a little bit more extreme. Okay. Another form of extreme is a hyperbole. So, hyperbole is a major exaggeration that is used to create a dramatic effect. It's also used to just add some emotional tone to the writing. Okay. So, if you've ever heard a your mama joke, that's a hyperbole, right? Literally, there is no woman who is so fat that if she jumped up in the air, she would get stuck, right? That's not possible. Literally, it could not happen. But figuratively, using hyperbole, I could tell you that this is a very large lady if I said, Yo mama is so big, she jumped up in the air and got stuck, right? That's hyperbole. It's a major exaggeration. Okay. So if I said, It was so cold, I saw icebergs wearing fur coats, that's ridiculous, right? It's a hyperbole. It's meant to be ridiculous, but it also is a really good indication that it's really, really cold outside, right? Instead of just saying, It was so cold, which is a really boring way of writing. Okay. How about this one? The new iPhone is so big, it has its own zip code. Okay, well, obviously not literally, but figuratively, using hyperbole, we're really just trying to say this is a big phone, right? This is a phablet, right? This is the new iPhone is so big, bigger than, the iPhone 14. It's bigger. That's all we're really saying, but we're using hyperbole to make a big deal about it. So, hyperboles are exaggerations that are made to prove a point. Okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about is personification, which is spelled wrong. That is not how you spell it. So the I and the T should be switched. It should be Ation. Sorry, I'll fix that after the recording. Personification is when an author tries to give some human like qualities to an inhuman thing. So something that is not human seems to kind of come alive a little bit because of the human like qualities that the author describes it with. So the swimming pool invited us to jump in and play. Well, literally, no, that's not what happened. Um, the swimming pool did not literally say, Come on in, the water is fine. However, figuratively, painting a picture, when we read words like the swimming pool invited us to jump in, we can picture in our minds just how beautiful that sparkling water with the crystal clear, waves is. And it seems even more real to us when we say it that way. How about this one? The sun is smiling down on us today. Well, not literally. The sun doesn't have lips and teeth, but figuratively, using personification, giving the quality of smiling to the inhuman sun, we get the impression the writer's trying to say, like, it's a beautiful day, right? The branches of the trees danced in the wind. Well, no, not literally, because they don't have arms and legs to dance with. However, by using the figurative language of personification, where we are saying dancing is being done by trees that are not human, we can see in our mind, we can see the image of these trees moving and what it would look like in the wind. And it just helps us to really immerse ourselves in the writing even more. So These examples make it seem like the objects are characters almost in the story, and it makes them more relatable to us. So if you look around the room you're in, you can create personification about some of the things that you see. So the wobbly chair over there, you could say the chair broke its leg. Well, that's giving a leg, which is a human body part, to a chair, and it's saying that it broke its own leg, which is also something that only a human could do that has the ability to move. So we're personifying the chair. Okay. How about the lights are glowing happily? Well, now we're giving an emotion to an inhuman light. And so it's personification. The door slammed itself shut. Well, no, it did not literally grow fingers and grab itself and slam itself shut. But using these words, we get a better picture of the effect of that door slamming, right? Look at this plant over here. See, it's not in good shape, right? Long forgotten by the teacher. The plant, well, what do you think? What kind of personification could you put on this plant? What human qualities could you use to finish this sentence? Could you give it an emotion? Like um, the plant drooped wearily and waited to die? Well, it can't wait. It doesn't have a brain. That would be personification. Um, what else could you say? That um, it bent its head towards the ground as it gave up. Well, again, personification, because a plant doesn't have the ability to think and do those things. So these are some good examples of personification, and I'm sure you can come up with more. Now, we are going to, if I can get out of this, no. We are going to practice these four things using the novel that we're reading right now. So once you finish your notes in this video lesson, we're going to work on using these skills in Touching Spirit Bear.